For those of you who I have not met, I am Dennis O'Rourke. I'm the Pennsauken Township engineer. And thank you for the easel. Is this going to be sufficient here, do you think? I asked the opportunity to meet with the facilities committee. Obviously everyone's aware that the central school has been removed, demolished. And as township engineer, as Superintendent Martinez said, central school site sits within an area of the township that we call Baldwin's Run, which is very prone to flash flooding. And it happens on a fairly regular basis, the severity of which depends obviously on how long and how hard it rains. This has been going on in my 20-plus years with the township, and some of the lesser events probably go unnoticed by most folks, but the more catastrophic events which result in flooding of houses, vehicles, and what have you, those are the ones that typically get the attention of the mayor and committee. And heretofore, there has not been much that could be offered by the mayor and committee in terms of being able to help these residents with this problem. But always the response is the engineers should go and investigate it and look into it and see what can be done. And we're always happy to do that. It's kind of the neat thing for engineers to do, so we like doing it. And I will tell you that in the time I've been here, 4 separate engineering firms have done analyses of the Baldwin's Run drainage area. Let me put one more thing up if I might. And I know this is difficult to see for most folks. I apologize, I could not get it bigger as quick as I needed it to. But if you can imagine Westfield Avenue, Cove Road, Route 130, Central School site. That's only a fraction of the Baldwin's Run area. What all the engineers, interestingly, came to the same conclusion was that the Baldwin's Run Central School site sits in a very good location for stormwater management. It's high up in the drainage area, and enough runoff gets to the site that it would become useful should you ever be able to do any sort of stormwater management. Problem is, there's been a school there. Always has been a school there. I guess as long as any of us have been around, there's been a school there. Until recently, it's been an active school. That didn't stop the engineers from saying, hey, this is a good idea, should any time, you be able to do that. Well, that time has come, and that now there is no school there. So the township, myself, met with a few folks, and we said, this is somewhat historic, if you will, in that it presents an opportunity for not only the mayor and committee, but the members of the board to do something for the residents that heretofore we've only been able to kind of shrug our shoulders and say there's nothing we can do. You are going to get flooded when there is flash flooding. This becomes extremely important today because now the site is vacant. In speaking with the demolition contractor, he said, well, all the school district really was looking to do was to grade the site off. So all the bells and whistles started going. So I said, well, wait a minute, why don't we propose something else to the school district? So we put together, very quickly, we had one of our engineering firms put together a plan which instead of a simple site grading, we construct a stormwater management basin. It's been proven over and over that it will help the flash flooding in the area. No, it will not help the flash flooding. It will help, flash flooding is going to occur. It will help the residents in that they will not be impacted as much by the flash flooding. This will not solve their problem, and as I said to some of the members of the committee, our problem isn't going to be necessarily doing it, it's convincing them that they are not totally protected, and they still have to take precautions because there's going to be a storm that's going to overtop the basin, and they're still going to get flooded, okay? This is incredibly important in terms of the folks who are immediately downstream of the school. In fact, they could probably look out their front door at the school, or what used to be the school, and they are getting flooded. Lesser storms, they have to go out and move their cars. The bigger storms, they still have to get out and move their cars, but now they have to pump their basements out. Obviously, anything we could do to help them, to us, would be a good thing, and we were kind of hoping that the board would see it the same way. I could get into some of the engineering details of it, but they get kind of boring, but I'd be happy to do that if you'd like me to, but with that introduction, I would just as soon answer any questions that might come up.
My apologies. Mr. McDevitt is part of the facilities committee also.
And I don't want to speak for the facilities committee. I mean, that's I'm in the way. I'm sorry about that. With that introduction, anyone from the committee that we spoke to the other night, because we spoke in much greater detail about the proposed basin, it will take up most of the site that is presently there now. For those that have seen the site, when they excavated the basement of the school right around the middle of the building, the entire building does not have a basement. So some of the areas were removed and the site is still up high. But where they did remove the basement, that's about where we would suggest the bottom of the basin be. And what we found was some of the best soil. It's very sandy, very capable of percolating a lot of runoff. So as the water enters the basin during a storm, it fills up. We do have an emergency outflow, but the water would stay there for a period of time, perk into the ground or evaporate, and you're done. You wait for the next storm. We will do a perk test. Let me differentiate between the members of the board and the township. We, the township, obviously would not put the burden of any extra cost to build this over and above their present contract. We would fund the effort to build the basin, and I have had discussions with the mayor and committee about that, and they are on board with it. But basically, it takes stormwater runoff, particularly this area here, which floods. You're right next to the school, and it's flooding right next to the school. So we would then alleviate that situation, I think, solve it, but for a much larger storm. It enters the basin. We also have stormwater pipes coming into this area that we would open up and let fill the basin. Basically what you're doing is you're taking a lot of rain that's coming down very quickly in a very short period of time and giving it a place to go instead of into somebody's basement. Because if it's not here, it's going down to Madison and Browning and filling up those basements because they're lower than this. That's as simple as I guess I could state it. Why the engineer showed that red line, I'm not exactly sure, but what they said was that's the line at which point the water starts to go down the emergency overflow, which is a little bit of an inlet here. Pretty standard in terms of basins. We just built one over at the new soccer complex. The configuration looks different, but the hydraulics are all the same, and the design is the same. It fills up, it goes down the emergency overflow. If it continues to rain, it continues to fill up, and it finds the lowest point to come out. That actually would be back onto Wayne and Gross. So you get the, oh my God, you know, storm lasts an hour, 2, 3, 4, whatever. As this filled up, it would go down the emergency overflow, but then it would start to come back and do what it does now. But we have delayed that from happening. I can't give you a defined period of time. In some cases, we only need 20 minutes in order to store water, and then you protect it to a degree, the surrounding neighborhood.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
How many residents are affected by this flooding?
Always depends on how much rain and how long it rains, but I'll say 20, 30. Depends on how far down into the Baldwin Run Basin you go, because some storms can affect 50 or more. And in this area, as we were saying to the facilities committee, the problem on Gross Avenue is not that they get flooded by the stormwater, but that it surcharges the sanitary system, and they get backflow in the sanitary system into their basement. But the floodwater is down there, but it's going up a much smaller sanitary line. Not all of them have backflow preventer valves, which we encourage them to get. Some of them don't maintain them, so they don't work. But in one storm that we had, I think it was 2001, not only did a wall collapse up here, a basement wall collapse, but we had 15 or 20 homes, I believe, that took sanitary waste in their basement. But the flooding was all down here. That's a good question, but it's tough to pinpoint because I guess in the worst storm I remember, it was probably up in the 100 range.
So how often? How often is it?
Flash flooding occurs every year. Flash flooding occurs every year. The latest event that I can remember was the day after Labor Day. Now, as I said to the facilities committee, I'll bet a lot of you don't even realize it rained the day after Labor Day. But down at 37th and Camden, which is the lower end of this, that's down here. They were moving their cars because their intersection had 3 feet of water in it. 34th and Westfield and Camden was not passable. That's flash flooded. An hour after I saw it, it was gone.
Is the stormwater system under outflow, does that follow the normal discharge system for the run?
Yes.
Without that?
Yes.
So it's basically taking it out temporarily and dumping it back into the same system?
Yes.
What's the pipe structure there?
Reinforced concrete pipe, 36-inch diameter.
Flowing into?
Well, there's actually 2 of them. One's coming down Wayne Avenue to Merchantville, and it comes down Merchantville, and it comes down Madison. It doesn't really, it just bypasses the school. One of the issues that I believe, because it was before my time, but because this flooded so often, they put all these inlets on the school side of Wayne, and they ran a pipe diagonally across under the school site to Merchantville Avenue, and it comes down Madison. So now you've got parallel 36-inch pipes going down Madison Avenue that eventually connect together into a 48-inch pipe between Lexington and Browning. So you've got 2 36 going into a 48. Obviously, what's going to happen? You got a problem. So the beauty of the location is, number one, it's the low part of the school site. Secondly, we're delivering the water to the site. We have a pipe that's coming right across the site. All we have to do is dig down to it and break it open, and you've got the whole situation. What we're going to actually do is take this one that presently bypasses the site, and we're going to interconnect it and bring it over. That's our proposal right now. I would ask a little bit of leeway on the design because we put it together so quickly. We do have some details of design to work out, but it's not rocket science, really. Is that word I like rocket science. It's not that complicated. It's a technology that has happened all over.
Site will be fenced?
Yes.
Site will be maintained by the township?
No.
No, it would be maintained by our facilities department in terms of grounds.
That's the proposal as of 7:30 tonight.
Now, I just follow up with the Ms. Wilson a question about potential benefits for this particular proposal. So, is that possible you can survey in your neighbor, how many potential identified or target neighbor will benefit from this kind of proposal? And for, if I look at the map, if you travel pretty west, slope going down, that means, for your neighbor down, Merchantville Avenue may not benefit from this kind, stormwater management basin. But, up, go to the east. The other side, maybe, your resident may be benefit because, there's water, stormwater runoff and go down this way. Now, if the stormwater basin will take entire, area, and I want you to go, you need more detail about, potential benefit, also environmental issue impacts, this kind of proposal down the road, because you say, this kind, facility may possibly solve the problem.
No, that won't solve the problem.
So that's why, we need more information.
We don't know. Actually, that's the problem that happened in previous engineering analyses, where they looked at this site and you plug in a storm hydrograph that is created by, the 5-year storm or the 10-year storm. You've heard those terms, 25-year, 50-year. When you plug that in, the site will fail because it's too small. And that's what happened in the previous analyses. So finally, after I think the flooding in '06, we finally started to say, well, look, why should we reanalyze it again when we know if we plug in a 25-year storm, it's going to fail? In fact, the area just downstream from here, if you go down Madison, you hit Lexington, then you hit Browning. That area, if we were to build a basin, probably couldn't handle a 1-year storm, which means every year, a 1-year recurrent storm happens every year. And we can't design a basin down in that area, which is what the subject of our analysis was. So we stopped saying, let's not use the pre-formulated hydrographs, which was a 24-hour storm. When you talk about a 50-year event or a 100-year storm, you're talking about a 24-hour rain event. What we did is we created our own hydrograph, which was a thunderstorm. And for, I think it was 1 hour, 2 inches of rain in 1 hour, we plugged that into this site, and we estimate that a basin that we've got right here could handle about between 25 and 30% of the flow that's getting to this site. Now remember, you've just created your own hydrograph, so if it rains for 30 minutes, 2 inches an hour for 30 minutes, that's better. If it rains, obviously, you're doing the best you can to design it. I'm not even purporting that this basin can handle all the water that gets there under certain storms. We know it's going to bypass and flow downstream. But these storms that occur every year, the ones that most of us don't even realize it's raining, are the ones that we got to contain for 20, 30 minutes, and it protects those folks from getting water either in their cars or in their basements, or flooding the intersection at Browning. How many times has Browning and Madison been closed because it's just, you simply can't get past, but yet they drive into it?
So I guess that's my question. It's happening often enough. I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out what the benefit is. Is it 20 homes and it only kind of happens once a year, or is it something that every time we have a rain flow, at least this intersection is closed? And is there any other basins that we've built beyond, I guess, the soccer field across the township, and how are they working?
We have probably 6 or 7 other basins in the areas of the town that were developed later than this particular area, because the rule came into effect later that if you're going to develop an area, Chadwick, Centennial Walk has basins. Chadwick has like 4 basins. The Homestead Youth area has a basin behind it. The soccer field. You have to do it now. But being this area is so old, there really was no requirement to do it. So whereas Baldwin's Run probably flowed above ground in times past, if you wanted to build a house and you didn't like that particular creek there, you build a pipe and you enclose it. Well, that only lasts until it rains hard, and then that's what causes
It is a
storm.
creek again, like it's supposed to be.
And the benefit is not just here at Wayne and Gross or here down at Browning and Madison. This was the area we proposed to tear down houses and put a basin, but it wouldn't work anyway, so why do it? It's also all the way down into the basin at 48th and Jackson, 47th and Jackson, 46th and Jackson, and 37th and Camden. Any water you store high up in the basin area is helping downstream. The effect gets lessened the further down you go, because obviously it's raining all over the basin. But this is the first location within the perimeter of where we've identified the area getting to it that really isn't overbuilt with homes. And so that's why we hypothesized ourselves back in '06 is, well, let's take the homes away and put a basin there. It's tough to justify tearing down a lot of homes when you don't get the benefit. It would certainly help the people whose homes you tore down, because now they aren't going to get flooded, but that's pretty catastrophic. This presented an opportunity that, well, we're not going to go tear a school down either, active or otherwise, but if it's not there, maybe there's an opportunity here. It is, don't let me trivialize, I mean, I don't want to try to mislead you, but this is a direct benefit to the people that live in this area here, and we've had them in front of us multiple times, I would say, in the last 15 to 20 years because of flood damage to their homes and so forth. This directly will help them, but if the storm is long enough, like in maybe 2001, where it just went on and on at a high intensity, or 94, where it just never quit, they will still get flooded. But you know what? I can at least say, well, instead of coming to the underside of your rafters, maybe it's only 2 feet or 3 feet because you're able to store some water here. So I'm just throwing those numbers out.
I have a quick question, and, just hypothetical. What happens if we need the site to build a new school, and there's now this basin there that's providing
Well,
relief?
that's probably the biggest question I've been asked in the whole scenario, and I've been asked it like many times. Let me go back a few years to when you actually, not you, but the board for the school district was actually considering putting a school here. The township then approached the members of the board and said, can we work with you and put stormwater detention under your parking lot or under your playground perhaps, which again is a proven technology because you're basically taking this and you're building chambers underground. Because of where this is geographically located, it would work. What they basically are row after row of large pipes, plastic pipes. Water goes in it and it fills them just like it would this, and then the water goes out, and you don't see them because you're parking on top of it. We didn't propose anything under the school, and we proposed even more storage back in 2009 than we're proposing now, simply because, well, money obviously is a big deal, but this area back here is too high, and it would cost too much to lower it down to where it would become effective for stormwater management. But let me continue the thought is, school district would like to build a school there. All we asked was, and this was to the committee, we asked, could you come to us and could we work with you right from the get-go, because we would still want to use this for stormwater storage, but we would do it in a different form, and we would then again go back to our 2009 proposal and put it on the ground. The problem with that is we would have to plan ahead because it's more expensive to do underground than it is above ground. I mean, I'm sure that's fairly logical. We also looked at 2 scenarios in 2009. One was precast concrete vaults, if you will, con vaults they're called. Again, it's been done, it's proven technology. The other was the infiltrator pipes, which are parallel plastic pipes. The biggest use of them I can think of is the recent Old Dominion parking lot where they have the tractor trailers. I mean, they put in a system that would be probably twice maybe the size of what we proposed for this. New England Motor Freight did it. Saigon Plaza has their entire parking lot. Anywhere you dig up, you would find infiltrator pipes underneath. So it's been done in town in many locations because it allows you to park on top of them and still get the benefit of stormwater management. So I would propose that to the school district, but all we asked was to have enough time to plan for it and perhaps budget for it, because it is a little more expensive. But you're going to dig the site up anyway to build a school, so maybe we could work together. And
So the question would be, if this board would not take a decision about building a school right now, and if that plan moved forward, what would then be plan B if we needed that land for a school?
the only
Do it that way.
I agree. The feedback I've been getting, and I will let you talk amongst yourself, was that there probably would not be a school for at least 5 years. So at the cost to do this, if we target around $200,000, I would spend that in a second to get 5 years worth of help for the residents of that neighborhood. And if you said, take it away in 5 years, I would then say, well, can I then spend a little more money and put it underground? But the downside of not doing anything is that you end up with a site that's flat graded, if you will, or maybe slightly dish. The folks downstream are watching what we're doing because they know this site is useful for stormwater management, and the next month or sometime this coming year, they will probably get flooded. And I'm not real eager to have them come and say, you mean you could have done something you didn't?
Does the township have any other land they can swap?
No.
Okay.
That was brought up very early on in the discussions. None that I'm aware of, or none that would be equally, this is a nice piece of property, I'll admit that. So for me to say, yeah, we have property over it.
Well, it'll have to be what the board wants.
Well, I agree. And that's when I was so quick to say no, is if I was the board, I wouldn't take it. So why would I offer it? So you're out at 47th and River, or Cove in Westfield, or somewhere else. Is that a swap? I don't think that would be fair. No, we want this site, and we'll try to work with the district any way we can in order to make this happen, because this is immediate and a direct benefit to the local community. I don't know what else I need. We have got the design started. We're going to speak with the demolition contractor. We're going to let him finish his contract, and he is going to grade the site off. Okay, and then I would expect to get some calls. Why didn't you?
Is there any chance your perk test can change your analysis?
No.
If it finally comes in,
No, because I have physically seen the soil that's under this center
The
part of the
clay
site.
all
I'm telling
sand?
you that this
Okay.
is, here's my proviso, is over here where the playground equipment is undisturbed. And we're going to do soil borings where the playground equipment is. Yes, clay lenses do happen in the township, and this may be an area that was not disturbed during school construction, so we do have to check that out. But where the school is some of the best material we've seen in the
percolate
town.
the water.
The contractor said, "Be sure you want to do that," because he said, "I've watched it rain and it just goes away." I mean, during the demolition, he doesn't have a problem with water in the site because it just goes away. But you're right, there is an area over here that we have to check out, and we will do a perk test to make sure that it's suitable.
So, can I ask you, I guess, so you can investigate whether or not this is something the board needs to move forward with, what would be the next step? I guess, and I'm sorry, if you don't mind me asking.
No, please.
What would be the next steps for us to figure out which way we need to go, whether or not this is a good idea, is a fully funded for the township? It looks like there has been some movement, but what do we need to sort of look at?
I guess in order for us to go forward, the township to go forward with the project, we would at least have to know that we're not spending money that isn't going to be useful. I mean, we would need a positive feedback from the board that said, yes, we'll go along with this and allow this to be constructed. The way we would propose to do it, as we talked about the other night, was there would be an intergovernmental agreement, or an interlocal services agreement between the township and the school district, or the board of it, where you lay out all the provisos as to what the township will do, what the board will do, who's responsible for the site, who owns the site, we're building something on a piece of property we don't own, so obviously the board would need to review any sort of legal agreement, if you will, and the way we've done that in the past is an interlocal services agreement between two entities who are trying to reach a mutual goal, but we each have our own interests. So you write them down we use a township resolution that's signed by both parties. That would have to be in place. We, the township, would do the design and the construction. We would ask the school district to turn the property over to the township temporarily so that the school district didn't have to be part of the bidding and the awarding and so forth. We would then give the property back, but now there would be a basin on it that the board would, the district would maintain. The township indemnifies the school district for any liability that may occur on the site, and then it just sits there and does its thing.
And you would need an agreement in order for us to give you access to do the perk test prior to the other agreement. We would
Well,
also, my recommendation would be also that if the deal doesn't go forward, you turn over the perk test to us. Because if we do put a building up, we would want that.
I don't see any problem sharing the results of either our soil borings or the perk test, and
No, I mean, we take ownership if you guys don't go forward. And even if you do go forward, we still want access and rights to the testing. Because eventually, if the district decides to make this a school site, that's something we would use and we wouldn't have to pay for in the future. And since, depending upon the final agreement, if the township's willing to pick up that cost, and they should because they're doing the perk test, we would want that in our back pocket. And that would be my recommendation on the board. It shouldn't be a problem. It's a normal agreement between.
my suspicion is that you would be an integral part of any sort of interlocal agreement,
That's
because
not what I'm
I'm not a lawyer, I'm not
Well,
writing
that's not what I'm
this
saying. I want ownership
of,
tests. So in other words, the right to in other words, what could happen, what normally happens in the regular commercial world is that if you have two parties that are buying and the party backs out, the problem is the tests are owned by the buyer, and then the person that owns the property can't use them for something else. We want the right, and I'll draft into the agreement to have that. So I'm just telling you up front, that would be my recommendation to the board. Shouldn't be a problem, but
I would just as soon share any information
I'm not saying share.
with,
I'm not sharing is seeing. I'm talking ownership.
well,
And ownership without liability.
I only am interested in what the results are.
Okay, fine.
And then we can go ahead with the basin. I think they're gonna be very good, but
Yeah.
I don't see that as a problem.
No, neither do I. It's a normal provision, but I just wanted to bring it up.
So I guess to answer your question was, we would like some positive response at some point from the board that, yes, this can go forward. It's not quite as critical time-wise as it was a week ago, because we were looking to have the demolition contractor simply proceed with the construction. So we were rushing everything out the door, but that fell apart when the cost got a little higher than we had anticipated. So we said, how about if we back off, let the contractor finish the district's contract to complete the demolition. We're going to meet with him on Tuesday to talk about the final grading of the site. If both he and T&M Associates feel that there's enough soil on site to fill in the hole that's been dug and create a situation that can last for a few months until, say, then a new contractor would come in, perhaps the same guy even, depending on now. But now it's public bid, and you've done everything properly. You bring someone else in and create it. The board, well, I don't know what the correct term is, the board of district, but what?
So what kind of timetable are you looking at for response from the board?
Well, if not tonight, then certainly,
That's what I'm asking. What are you actually looking, are you looking for us to make a decision to agree to begin the process of sort of studying whether this has to happen? Are you looking for us to make a decision as to affirmatively, yes, we're willing for this to happen? Or are you looking for us to
That
make
one.
a decision?
that
I mean, I figured that one, but I just wanted to know. I mean, I figured I'd go up either way, but I
and
guess.
I'll take that tonight, but if you want to talk about it, I guess now, because we probably wouldn't go out to public bid till early January anyway, so I don't know what to tell you about time frame, but we would then take from today to then to prepare the plans and specs that we would go out to public bid with. So if we didn't find out anything, if we didn't find out anything until mid-December, that would just delay the project if we didn't find out anything till late December. The longer the decision comes, the further into 2013, we would actually start construction, should the decision be that yes, we could go ahead.
So, when's demolition done? Is it done?
Next week.
Building's gone.
Are we done?
He needs to know next week. He needs to know next week how to leave the site, because we've kind of told him, and we're meeting with him Tuesday morning, R&D, and myself. R&D is your engineer. We're meeting with him Tuesday to kind of go over how he's going to leave the site. So he is very, very close to starting to pull out of here. The building's down, most of the debris is gone. He has a little bit of work to do up here with the track, because he's pulling out this inlet. But whatever. I would say by the end of November he's gone. Which is fine. I mean, we're not stepping into that process. We backed off of that. But I guess a positive or negative response, the sooner the better for getting it done in 2013.
I guess my concern would be what the legalese of it. That's, to me, what the agreement and the legalese would look like in regards to what kind of negotiations.
In the meeting we had, the township was taking the responsibility, most of the responsibility away from us. They were going to be liable for anyone getting hurt on the property. They were going to bear the expense of putting this basin in. They had agreed that at any time if we wanted to use the site to build, that we would work together to come to a resolution to get the school built if we wanted to build on the spot. So, I mean, they were really willing to do whatever we wanted them to do. We just need to finalize it in writing and make sure that we put everything in there that we want. And that way, they even emphasize that, make sure we put what we want in the agreement when we write the agreement up. So, at a later date, even if it's 10 or 15 years from now, at that point, if we decide that we want to use that ground for something, we have the right to go back and build it.
So I guess what's the recommendation from the facilities committee?
I think it's a great idea.
In
That's
addition,
mine.
if I may, Mr. President.
Yes, please.
In addition to the conversation that we had at the meeting, Rick affording us the ability and rights to do anything with the site, there was also conversations and discussions about when that event occurs where we want to, let's say, come back and build on the site, that management device would still need to be in place.
Right.
Because we could not possibly even entertain coming back, building a school, and removing that retention structure at the jeopardy of flooding downstream. I mean, the community would be really upset about that.
So at that point, we would just relocate it from there to the underground.
We have to do.
Right.
Right.
We couldn't go back to
Right,
not
we wouldn't go
having-
backwards.
Right. So, and then they did agree to that.
So the site, development of the site would not allow above-ground retention, so it would mean a subsurface structure, correct?
We assume that. Based on the school that was proposed in 2008, 2009, because that's a correct statement. But what you might propose in 2000, whatever, I don't know.
Well,
I would say that's definitely a correct
I'm going on
statement.
the judgment or decision or information that right now this doesn't satisfy your stormwater requirement, that it just mitigates the
Right.
issues. At that size, which is almost utilizing the entire site, if we come back onto the site and develop a school along with parking lot and all the site improvements, it would probably, eliminate a good portion of the site and for opportunities for above-ground retention, which, go ahead.
Well,
Which
may I
means
make
to
a...
me, it sounds like it's an underground
Right.
retention system,
Right.
either similar or identical to what happened on Camden Avenue.
That's true, except that this isn't the only property. The school property comes up like this, and in 08, 09, the school was going to be here.
On the other side.
Yeah, you're correct. And the parking was going to be,
There.
you know, and the buses in and out. So there's actually more property than meets the eye with this plan.
Understood.
This whole area here could be utilized, and we were in fact utilizing it. We had designed almost double this for the new school. So I'm saying if there was ever a decision to put a school, we may actually be able to increase what's there now.
Okay.
Simply because you're developing more of what is now being undeveloped.
Okay. Well, regardless
good
whether
point.
it's above ground or underground, the cost to provide that system or to restore that system in the event of our future development would be borne by the township and
That's
not
my
by the
question.
district.
That was my question.
That's correct, to the extent that over and above what the school site development would have required anyway in terms of stormwater management. Because when you build a school on the site, you're going to be required to provide stormwater management
For our site.
for your
For our
site,
site.
Right.
So it might not
which is
be-
this much compared to that
Right,
much.
so it
Exactly.
might not be what this would require,
Absolutely.
so it would be, the cost would be associated with what would have been a part of the cost of building the school. If
We
that's
would
the case,
expect-
then it's a win-win.
We would expect the school district to kick in what they would have had to
You are
anyway,
not a partner in the deal.
which
Correct.
we all understand is a fraction of what
Understood.
we would propose, but remember, we haven't even asked for any, we didn't even assume you would want to contribute to this, so we knew we were fighting off the entire financial amount. And we would so in the future, and that's part of this agreement that I would suggest we definitely write, because none of us might be here. But if I'm reading an agreement from so many years ago, I feel as though I have to live with that, even though people other than myself made that agreement. It's in writing and it's signed and it's all that other good stuff. So definitely how we say that if the school in the future wishes to construct a school, there will be cooperation between the township and the school, and the township will bear the cost. However we, you know, Frank and our Mike Joyce attorney would phrase that, I'm comfortable with that, because I'm very,
I think, Dennis, for purposes of the board, we have two different timetables. So let me just cover where I think you are. You're going to have to do the perk tests. There may be other environmental tests that have to be done on the ground. There has to be a motion to allow you to go forward with that. That's the first one. Okay. Then the second one will deal with the construction of the contract and the terms and conditions. So I think the first thing to do is to allow you to go forward with entering the site, you know, testing, with the understanding that the township is going to hold the district and indemnify them from any potential liability of any contractor or anything else getting hurt on the site. So that'll be the first thing that we have to deal with. Now, time-wise, you're going to do the perk test first, and you're going to do an environmental phase 1 or 2? No. Okay. But you're going to do the perk. Anything else you're going to do? Okay. All right. What's your time frame for the perk test? I mean, I know you
I wasn't going to do anything without some sort of positive.
No, well, that's what I'm saying.
If we let you do the perk test, that's positive.
Oh,
That means remove it.
Right.
Mr. O'Rourke, obviously, we don't have a contract here tonight. We don't have an agreement here tonight that we can actually vote on. So that, we can't finalize any agreement. So this is just preliminary. So what I understand that you're just looking for us to say it's okay to go preliminary, that we are interested in being positive about what we've heard so far. You're not looking for a final decision tonight.
No, but I think in that, I think that's exactly right from the president. We give you the ability to go onto the property if you so choose to do your perk test. Because it's not going to impact the board if you do or don't do the perk test. It's going to be, you know, your construction of the detention basin. But if you so choose to do so, I want to make sure that the school district's covered for any liability in case a contractor gets hurt or somebody, and a child walks onto the site because it's not fenced in yet. So I would want that to be part and parcel to any intermediary resolution until we reach the final agreement.
Okay by me.
Whether you have that authority, I'm not sure, but that's what I'm gonna suggest of the
Just
board.
don't ask me to write something like that.
No, I'm not, I'll write it. I know
I'll
that's
have
not
Mike
your
Joyce
bailiwick.
look at it.
Yeah, but I'm just letting you know up front, that's, I want the district protected. I mean, right now, you know, it's another issue with demolition, but if we're gonna let you, you know, take a look-see and see, you know.
Well, if I could move quick enough, I'd be on site tomorrow because the demolition contractor basically owns the site.
Well, your second.
But I don't want to.
No, I understand, but your second time constraint, I believe, and what you're telling the board is that you want to utilize the construction contractor to do the grading to your specifications for the detention basin.
No.
No,
No,
okay.
not anymore.
Okay, I missed that
No.
one.
I want out of your contract.
Right.
You handle your contract any way you want. We're just going to try to keep him from minimizing the amount of soil he brings onto the site that would ultimately have to be removed anyway. If he can use what's on site and two opinions say there's enough soil on the site already.
So it won't be your final grading plan that we normally had in our contract. It'll be an intermediate grading plan that's doesn't hurt you too much, but doesn't help you too much, because you still got to dig the site.
Correct.
What's the depth of your site that you're looking for?
About 7-8 feet.
7, 8 feet. Okay, and is it now currently a removal of 7, 8 feet, or is it something like that where you want the grading to be? It's going to be a removal of 3.5 feet. Is it like a 50% deal that you're looking to get?
The site as it sits right now, part of the site is down at 7, 8 feet where the basement of the school was, but
And the
there's
rest of the
still,
site? Wait, and the rest of the site?
it's not been disturbed to the depth we need it, so we would have to do significant excavation.
You would, or you want?
All of the area that's non-yellow.
Okay.
Well, the township's contractor would.
What I'm saying, for our contractor, what's the conversation you expect to have Tuesday? Leave the site at this point, don't leave the site at that point? I'll tell you why, tell you that's where I'm going. My fear is that if there's a pit there, and we haven't entered into an agreement yet, and something happens, we're on the hook. I don't want to be on the hook. So that's why I'm asking. So if it's something where the committee, and especially Carlos has to be there as part of this meeting Tuesday, to determine that we have to modify the contract for our contractor, I want to make sure we're covered. The school, understand where I am, that, you know, today, kids climb fences, they fall down holes, you know, the liability could be huge. So I just want to make sure that if the board's going to okay this going forward today, that we're going to enter into an immediate agreement for indemnification tomorrow. So that whatever you guys want to do, whether it's 7 feet, 5 feet, 4 feet, we're not on the hook.
Then I would probably allow you, the district would have to make the decision as to what the final site looked like, because your contract right now is so vague that you can almost do anything and have it meet the contract. So the contractor himself is looking for direction as to what to finally do with the site. Again, there is no grading plan that was provided by the school district. So we could build this basin and meet your spec for final grading.
But I assume he would not leave pits and valleys.
Well, obviously that wasn't the intent.
Exactly. I know that,
but that's why Safanero was coming, was to make that decision. But I would entertain anyone coming, fill it in if you want. I will not accept the liability for the site between now and when we would take over.
I'm not suggesting that, but I'm suggesting once we close our demolition out and our contract's over, as a benefit to the town, we're willing to, I assume the committee will meet with you and determine that if it's at this particular level at this point, that's okay. But the answer is from that point forward, whether we enter into an agreement, you know, down the line as a final, I want to be covered for that intermediate period. That you guys have access to the site and the site's not to a final grading that we would have decided to. And if it doesn't go through, that you guys will basically do the grading that we wanted.
No, then I won't agree with that. You do what you want with the site.
Okay, all right.
I'm not going to agree with that.
Okay.
But you tell me what, you know, look at your specs and tell me what you think that site should look like.
We got to defer to our committee because, you know, I haven't reviewed any blueprints or anything. It's not my.
Well, I have.
Well, I know you have.
And I can tell you that they're vague.
Okay.
But no, I will not take responsibility for that site. So you
I mean,
bring in all the fill you
post-
want, and we'll take it back out again if we
Okay.
decide to go ahead with it. but the responsibility from now until we actually start construction is on the
Okay.
school district. So you do what you want.
All right.
But I would appreciate if you would draft something up so that we could go in and do a perk test, and we would like to do at least 2 soil borings.
During our committee meeting, we had talked about soil borings, and you felt that due to the nature, the sandy soil nature, that we probably wouldn't need to do that.
I was overruled by my engineer who said, you really want to confirm what's under the playground area.
Okay.
So he disagreed with me today.
Okay.
So, and we're more than happy to have them go, do the soil borings. We're more than happy to, I don't even understand what you said, but whatever you want in terms of perk test or soil borings,
No, that's up
you
to
can have them. I don't care as long as I get
Soil
the
borings
results.
are for perk tests?
No, it's to
Or-
find out if there's clay under the
Okay.
thing. We'll just pick a location for the perk test, and we know we would want to pick a location that we're really not sure. Right now, we're sure of some of this site that there is no problem at all.
Borings are for percolation?
I guess because if the answer was no, absolutely not, then that's an answer too.
Right.
But if the question is yes, we'll definitely take it under advisement. Depending on how the legal agreement can be written, then we'll continue forward.
What I'm hearing from the board members is that this has piqued people's interest, and there is interest in it, that we should probably look further into it.